All right, I've got 1 o'clock on the dot. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Public Safety and Government Operations Committee meeting. In attendance today, from the committee, we have myself. I see Councilman Burnett, Councilman Cohen, Councilman Costello. I don't see yet. He told me he's running a little late. Councilman Glover, Councilwoman Porter, and Councilwoman Ramos. I don't see any other council members in attendance as well. For members of the Office of the President, I have Nikki Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Matt Stegman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Aaron DeGraffenried. Representing the Mayor's Office, I've got Natasha Mihu and Nina Themelis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. This afternoon's committee will have a hearing for Bill 21-0038, Human Trafficking Notice Requirements, Modifications, for the purpose of requiring city-owned or occupied buildings to place a notice regarding human trafficking prevention hotline in certain locations, deleting an obsolete reference to the Maryland Department of Labor, Licensing and Regulation, providing that certain businesses may obtain the required human trafficking notices from the United States Department of Homeland Security's Blue Campaign website, and conforming and clarifying related provisions. This bill was introduced on February 8th, 2021, and it was sponsored by Councilmember Chris Burnett. I want to open the floor to comments from the sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, for hearing this bill today. So the issue of human trafficking is one that we have done a lot of work on this body on, and this is another step in the right direction to increase public awareness of the resources available to individuals who may be trafficked or people who may know folks who have been trafficked or suspect. Last term, the council passed a ordinance requiring a lot of private posting of information related to the human trafficking hotline in hotels, restaurants, that kind of thing. And that bill is still being implemented. In the process of working through that legislation, we realized that a lot of other municipalities have also taken the step to ensure that this exact same posting is in public buildings as well. And so this legislation is a reintroduction of that effort to ensure that city government buildings and restrooms and in entryways have posting on the how to report human trafficking to the national hotline, phone number and text, as well as things to look out for. And so looking forward to a hearing on this. I do have one amendment that I'm happy to talk about later, Mr. Chair. That's a small revision, and I'll add some context as to why we're taking that step. But other than that, looking forward to the agency feedback on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Burnett. So now the committee will hear from agency representatives. First, we're going to start off with the Department of Social Services. Is there a representative from the Department of Social Services on the call? All right, we're going to move on to the Law Department. Do we have anybody from the Law Department on the call?
Mr. Chair, I do see that we have Hillary Rowley, who I believe is representing the office on this bill, but I'm not sure if she's able to unmute.
Yes, I just was able to. Thank you. I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. Do you have your report?
Yes, we stand by this bill as favorable. No issues.
Thank you so much. Now from the Baltimore Development Corporation.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you. And who's speaking?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm not sure who's speaking.
It's Jeff Billis from Baltimore Development.
Awesome. Thank you. Jeff, do you have a report from the BDC?
Yes, we do. Our report is as it relates to Bill number 210038. We do not see any fiscal impact and we have no objection to the bill.
Thank you.
Probably a very wise thing to do, actually.
Thank you. Next, we've got the Health Department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paul Niver with the Baltimore City Health Department. And also thank you to the members of the committee. We stand by our report, which is favorable. We believe that this measure is fairly low-hanging fruit in order to combat human trafficking. And as the bill sponsor mentioned, it is fairly, it's accepted as best practice across multiple jurisdictions. So again, we wholeheartedly support this and we urge a favorable report.
Thank you. Next, we've got the Police Department.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Michelle Wurzberger, Director of Government Affairs for the Baltimore Police Department. We stand by our report, which basically says that we are in support of the bill as well.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, just for folks, please state your name for the record as well. Next, we've got the Department of Housing and Community Development.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Stephanie Murdoch, Legislative Liaison for the Department of Housing and Community Development. We stand by our bill report in support of this legislation. We commend the sponsor's efforts. I would ask that the amendment be circulated amongst the agencies so we can take a look at it.
Sure. We'll try to get that sent out. Councilman Burnett, if you don't mind at some point sending that over to us, and we'll make sure to distribute the amendment.
Will do. I would note that it does not apply to DHCD, but I will get it out to everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we've got the Mayor's Office of Human Services.
Hi, Mr. Chair, Nina Themelis with the Mayor's Office of Government Relations. I'll speak on behalf of Human Services. They support the passage of the legislation.
Thank you. And then the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Wilson on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. We stand by our report in favor of this bill. It's an important step in raising awareness of the hotline and available services.
And then next up, we've got the Department of Finance.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, Mara James for the Department of Finance. We stand by our report. We think there'd be minimal fiscal impact. Our analysis was less than $1,000 for printing costs initially and less than $500 ongoing. So we stand by our report, do not oppose legislation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And finally, the Department of General Services.
Good afternoon. This is Alea Hendricks on behalf of the Department of General Services. We stand by our position and we support the bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just want to put one more offer out there for the Department of Social Services, if anybody's on the line. All right, moving on. We're going to open the floor up to questions from the committee, to the sponsor or the agencies. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilman Burnett, for continuing your leadership on this really important issue and bringing this bill to us. I read the law's report, and they had suggested a very tiny little teeny weeny technical amendment that we need to remove a bracket somewhere. And I was wondering if Ms. Ruley was able to talk a little bit more about that.
Oh, thank you, Councilwoman. I'm happy to. It looks like it's missing a bracket at the beginning of the text on page 3 in line 21. But obviously we defer to legislative reference if we're misreading that at all. Just really looks like a typo.
Councilman Burnett, were you aware? I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that in the report. And I don't have that amendment ready for today. But given it's, yeah, I would, is there someone from Legis Reference that could speak to that if we need to do that? I would say if so, I'd be willing to offer that on second reader. I don't think it seems super technical in nature to not need another hearing to do that.
I agree.
I'll defer. Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Chair, it's a bracket. So if we would need to offer that as a technical amendment, a friendly amendment to Councilman Burnett's amendments, would that be all right? But we need legislative reference to weigh in.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Mr. Chair, I can weigh in if you'd like.
Please do.
There should be a bracket on page 3, line 21 at the beginning, an opening bracket. So if somebody wants to just verbally move that amendment today, we can fix that real quick.
So moved.
For clarification, I think we can do it in a second reader, just so we can have it all written out and just stick to that process.
Okay, sure, Mr. Chair. I'll follow your lead.
Awesome. Thanks for noting that. Any other questions from the committee? All right, seeing no further questions. Actually, I see Tony DeFranco, I see you have your hand raised. Is there something else that you would like to add to the discussion? Tony?
Oh, no, my hand was raised from previously.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. All right, now the committee is going to move on to the public testimony. So I ask that folks listen up. So the committee staff will coordinate the public testimony. Please be patient. If you are connecting online, please use the raise hand function to indicate that you wish to testify. That'll be on your bottom right if you're using the WebEx app. Each speaker must state their name prior to speaking. Users who call in cannot be identified by name and will be unmuted by the host one by one. If you do not wish to testify, please say so when you are unmuted. Attendees will hear 2 beeps when they are unmuted. Please state your name at the beginning of your testimony. And if a speaker is inaudible, they will be directed to call back to provide their testimony in the chat function. With that, I see a hand raised from Amanda Rodriguez. Amanda, you have 2 minutes for your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Amanda Rodriguez. I'm the Executive Director of Turnaround. We are the Rape Crisis Center for Baltimore County and City and have been providing anti-trafficking services in Baltimore since 2011. We were the first anti-trafficking provider here in the city. We serve about 200 individuals a year through our anti-trafficking services, and I just wanted to applaud the introduction of this piece of legislation. This type of bill, in addition to obviously reaching out and touching potential survivors, it also brings awareness to the community at large, because the community itself will be seeing these signs, which is a way of prevention through public health methods. So it is an absolute easy way to target awareness throughout the community that this absolutely is happening in Baltimore City, as we can tell from the numbers at Turnaround. Just a quick story in terms of the effectiveness of this type of education in the community. I was a prosecutor in a previous life before I started working at Turnaround, and there was a young woman who was recovered by law enforcement. Turnaround was involved in her recovery as well. She was a child when she was recovered. She was in a hotel room. And when law enforcement recovered her, she was sitting on the edge of a bed watching SpongeBob in lingerie. She was a 13-year-old child. And it was the hotel who actually identified that this child was being trafficked because things simply did not piece together. They had contact information, they had been trained, they know what to look for. And so it is about that community conversation that led to this child being safe. She's now received services at Turnaround for numerous years, and I'm happy to say is on a very good path in terms of making decisions for herself and is empowered to move forward with her life. So this type of awareness in our community is essential to ensure that this type of abuse stops. So thank you so much for bringing it forward. And if there's any way for us to support, we are happy to be involved.
Thank you, Amanda. Any other testimony, please click the raise hand function at the bottom right of your screen. Seeing no further testimony, we're going to move to the phone lines. I do not see any other folks on the phone line. I want to acknowledge Councilman Costello, who's now joined the meeting. So with that, we're going to move on to the amendments. So I know we have one amendment presented by the sponsor. Councilman Burnett, do you want to talk a little bit about the amendment? And we'll see if we can, can we get that posted so folks can see it?
So it's a minor amendment and I'll get some context. So what the amendment would do is it essentially removes the school system buildings from this required posting. To add context for the committee, in the last term, we as in the other hat, I co-chair the Baltimore City Human-Trafficking Collaborative, and we put together a work group on this bill to try and work on some of the concerns that were raised about the language in the bill and the need for alternative language for the school system. And so we put together a work group last term to try and figure that out. But in doing that work, realized that it was incredibly complicated to develop child appropriate language at different age levels. So elementary school, middle school, high school. It was just a little bit convoluted to try and work that into the bill. So what we're going to do instead is work with the school system independently of this policy to continue that conversation and to try and get them to self-adopt these measures to ensure that there is information posted in schools about it that's child appropriate, but we're going to leave it to the school system to decide what that language is. So that's why they're being struck out of the bill, not because they are not supportive of the efforts that we're trying to do here, but and it just they have a lot on their plate right now, and we couldn't really come to a resolution last term on what made sense for each age group, and it just got way too convoluted to try and work that into a piece of legislation. And I'll take any questions on that.
Councilwoman Ramos.
Councilman Burnett, did the school system give you a time for, I know they're busy, but give you a time frame to be able to come up with something and that you'll continue to work with them? You know, you're exactly right. It's extremely important. And I appreciate that you wanted to move forward with the rest of the bill and then work with them later. But I was curious if there was a time frame.
They didn't provide a time frame, mostly due to session right now being in. But we met a number of times, and the reason I want to add a little bit of additional context I forgot to mention. So, because some people may be confused, like how could we legislate the school system doing anything? Well, we have surplus buildings that some like charter schools occupy. So those would be considered city buildings, even though it's the school system. And so the initial iteration of this bill would have mandated that those schools put the signage up, and it wouldn't, the rest of the school system would have still had to self-adopt. And so that's where we were like, all right, well, let's try and just work on something that you all will just take throughout the rest of the system. But like I said, it became very complicated trying to develop language for like elementary school kids, middle school kids, high school kids, which all rightfully so does require different messaging for those age groups to be appropriate and obviously very different than adults. So, but yeah, directly answer your question, Councilmember Ramos, they didn't give me a timeline, but we will continue the conversation.
Thank you. So it sounds like the intent is there, and that's a good thing. So, okay, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Any other questions from the committee on the amendments put forward? Great. Well, the committee will entertain a motion to accept the amendments.
I'd like to move the amendment, Mr. Chair.
So moved.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry, Councilmember Burnett.
No, you're good. Go ahead. Appreciate your eagerness to move it.
Excited about this.
Appreciate it.
Great. I was just wanted to clarify. So this amendment there is some substance to this. It makes a substantial change. There will be another amendment on the second reader that will simply be a comma or some punctuation piece. I have it. It's been moved by Councilwoman Ramos. Do we have a second? Oh,
Porter.
Porter. I'm sorry.
I'll second.
And seconded by Burnett. So roll call. Conway, yes. Burnett,
yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Costello,
Aye.
Glover,
Yes.
Porter,
Aye.
and Ramos.
Yes.
Excellent. So the amendment moves forward with all yeas. Is there a motion to move the bill?
I'd like to move the bill as amended.
Thank you. Moved by Councilman Burnett, seconded by
Cohen. Second.
Cohen. Thank you. Conway, yes. Burnett,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Costello,
Aye.
Glover,
Yes.
Porter,
Aye.
and Ramos.
Yes.
All right, it passes unanimously as amended. So this will go to second reader at the next council meeting, and we'll revisit that final piece as an amendment in the second reader.
Thank you.